To get full control over the shape of an editable spline, you'll also need to work with vertex types. There are 4 different types of vertices on an editable spline. If I go into vertex subobject mode for my star and select some of these, you'll see that they're all Bezier points. Grab the Move tool and move these little green handles around, and that indicates that it's a Bezier curve or Bezier vertex. You're probably familiar with that from a program like Illustrator or Photoshop. Almost all computer graphic programs have some implementation of the classic Bezier spline, which has incoming and outgoing handles to adjust the shape of the curve on either side of the vertex. In 3ds Max, we have other types of vertices as well. To convert between vertex types, just select one or more vertices and then right-click anywhere in the viewport. You'll get the quad menu, and in the upper left quadrant you can choose a different vertex type. For example, corner. If I choose a corner point, then it's a sharp corner. I'll do this one too. Right-click, choose corner. And a segment between 2 points will be a straight line if both of those points are corner points. So if all you need are straight lines, you can just select all the points and convert them to corner. Another really useful vertex type is smooth. I'll right-click and choose smooth. And a smooth point, as the name implies, is smooth. It's a nice soft curve, and it doesn't have any tangent handles for you to worry about. So in some regards, it's simpler. However, you'll notice with a smooth point that it does affect other segments. In other words, I'm moving that point, and it's not just affecting this segment and this one, but it's also affecting segments farther away than you might expect. The 4th type of vertex is a Bezier corner. That's a special case of a Bezier in which the incoming and outgoing tangents are not locked, and I can move them independently. You'll notice, by the way, with a spline that the transform gizmo does not appear at the location of the tangent handle. And so now as I move this, you'll notice that it's only moving in X. If I needed to move in X and Y, then I can just click in the center of the Move gizmo, and now I'm back to moving in X and Y. I'll convert those back to Bezier. You'll also notice that sometimes the curves become asymmetrical. The handles are different lengths on either side. If you need to restore the handles to be the same length, then you can right-click and convert to Smooth, and then right-click and convert back to Bezier, and now the 2 handles are equally the same length. Get in a little bit closer on that. One last thing I need to mention to you is it may be necessary for you to get rid of the transform gizmo in order to work. Here's an example. Let's say I want to get at this green tangent handle here, and I want to move it left and right. Because it's underneath the transform gizmo, I actually cannot move it in X, because as soon as I click there with my mouse, I'm telling 3ds Max that I want to constrain the movement to Y. So I cannot move it in X if the transform gizmo is directly positioned over the top of it. In this case, I'll need to hide the transform gizmo and use the Axis Constraints toolbar. To hide the gizmo, I'll press the X key on the keyboard. And to get the Axis Constraints toolbar, right-click on the main toolbar and choose Axis Constraints. And now in the Axis Constraints toolbar, I can choose X and Y as my constraints. And now I can edit this as I needed to before. One last point about hiding the transform gizmo. There's a separate command in the Views menu that says Show Transform Gizmo. And if you turn that off, then the transform gizmo and the little axis tripod will also disappear and you'll be left with nothing. I don't recommend that. Turn that back on again. Just use the X key, which will hide the gizmo but still show you this red axis tripod so you'll know which constraints you're currently in. Exit out of subobject mode. And that's a little introduction to using different vertex types in an editable spline.